This is a young elder. My title is Mustafa L. Bey, aka Big Ben Bey is back. And I am a 720 degrees Moorish Grandmaster. So, without further ado, let's dance. I don't know what we gotta do to get it in your head that we was the first. But I think after this, we will gain momentum again. Momentum. Listen up, brothers. Roll your pants leg back down, right? Get all your medals. Take that blindfold off, right? And get the hell out of there, right? Especially if you're in a blue lodge, right? See, what they did is, remember I told you this was third grade science, right? This was third grade science that we taught the kids. Third grade information as in 3 degrees, right? Somewhere along the line, these beings took our third grade information, dumbed it down to the second grade, called it religion, names, and then fed it back to us to enslave us with it, right? And it's all dealing around astronomy, right? The movement of the stars, the location of the stars, right? The science of the moon, the science of the sun, the science of the planets and the galaxies and the star system. Right? We knew this knowledge, but it was stripped away from us because we broke galactic law. But now it's time the information, affirmation, information be restored upon you. They want to hold tight to this third grade information, which they dumbed down to the second grade. These beings who call themselves Freemasons, right? This information we use to move about. We use the stars to travel in the galaxy, and we use the stars to travel on planets. When we get on planets, we can use the stars to log north, east, and west, to log location, right? To make maps. We made clocks based on astronomy, but the devil has got a concentrated effort out to keep you from going back and studying astrology, astronomy, and the science of it. He tell you that it's evil, that it's devil, that it's satanic, because he want to hold on tight to it while he give you this dumbed down, watered down version of it, right, called religion, right? This information, without a shadow of a doubt, is definitely third grade information that we put down, because you got to understand that's more than just 12 star systems. We only dealing with 12 star systems here, right? Giving us the 12 on the clock, right? And we who know that 12 is not a number. 12 is a combination of 1 and 2 having been brought together, giving you 3. Then it goes back to 1. We also use the stars to travel spiritually, because if you understand the different months, right? If you understand the different days and the time and the seasons on both sides of the mirror, it'll help you guide yourself a little bit more better here. I'm about to get into all that, you know what I'm saying? Because if you understand people's personality and what month they was born in, you'll understand how to deal with them a whole lot better. If you understand that this person is an Aries, right? And the Aries like to be out front. The Aries, they don't hold on to nothing, you know what I'm saying? They ain't a clutter type person. If it's not benefiting them, they get rid of it, right? So if you understand these things, you can understand better what you're dealing with, right? So we about to get into it, right? And a lot of these information gonna go over a lot of people's head, right? Because you're not ready, your mental is not elevated enough to take in some of these things. But we're putting it on wax so you can play it again and again and again and clearly get the parables and phrases that are being put forth here. Okay, let's get right into it. We hope you got your pens and your pads so you can make documentation on the stuff that we putting out so you can go check it for yourself, right? Because as Bible say, don't believe me, go check it out. You know what I'm saying? Go check it out, brother and sisters. Turn with me in your King James Bible. You know what I'm saying? On the screen, they're going to have a different quote, but we're going to read from the King James. In 2 Chronicles, chapter 3, verse 17, King James verse. We'll give you a second to turn now, because there's a lot we got to go over here in a short period of time. And we ask that you pay us with your attention. 2 Chronicles 3 and 17. And it reads, and he reared up the pillows before the temple, one on the right hand and the other on the left, and called the name on the right hand Joshan, and the name on the left Boaz. The first thing that is talked about is that of Boaz. As it is above, so it is below. In order to overstand that which is below, you must overstand that which is above. Boaz represents the sun. In the Bible, Boaz was a being who was a husband to Ruth, right? And Ruth is represented in the eastern stars as one of the 5 great points of the blazing star. We'll get into that maybe a little later, maybe another tape. Might get into it on this tape, right? Bo meaning in him, as meaning strength, right? Like we told you, in masonry, they have 3 great lights and they have 3 lesser lights. One of the lesser lights, they say, is the sun. And they put the Bible as being a greater light than the sun, right? So I ask you Masons out there who have any common sense, can you read the Bible without the sun? Can you exist without the sun in the sky? If the sun was to stop shining, it would be the end of your world as you know it. Your Bible wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for the sun up in the sky. So let me ask you a question. Good old 33rd degree Freemasons. Can you live without the Bible? We've been around on this planet for 17,500,000 years. The Bible's only been around 325 AD when they started just putting it together. We didn't have the sun, the planet would go into an ice age and everybody would die. If we lose the Bible, the planet will go on just like it's been going on for 17,500,000 years before the Bible. So, question, which one is the greater light? The sun in the sky, which make plants grow, which keep you warm, keep your planet rotating? Or the Bible, which has brought in chaos, homosexuality, rape, murder, and bloodshed, introduced you to the being called the devil, gave you 66 books, took 6 books out, because the books that you're reading, the King James and all these other translations, it was translated from the Latin, which has 72 books, was then translated into Germany, was translated from the Wycliffe, right, and so on and so on, all the way down into Anglo. Man, you're getting a watered down, stepped on version of the word of God, right? Which is all based on astronomy. And we're about to get into all of that. Because these 2 pillars, Joshan and Boaz, represents the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon is dealing around in astronomy, right? And we're about to get into the moon too. But we're dealing on the sun here, which is Boaz. Some of you Bible thumpers will say, oh, well, it's a spiritual. See, you're dealing with a physical side. It's a spiritual side. And they coming from a Christianity point of view of what spirit is, right? They don't really know that the sun is a 9th dimensional sun. They don't really know what spirit is. You talk about spirit, talking about the gas, right? Talk about the gas. So they don't even understand what spirit is. So, we'll deal with that later. So, which one is the greater light? Good old Scottish rites, Freemasons. So, the lesson in Boaz is understanding the importance of the sun as a part of the balance to keep life flowing, everlasting life flowing. So the sun rises in the east and shineth unto the west. So shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Which is why you said you headed east, right? Looking for light. Light in reference to knowledge, to know and not belief or faith. Are you looking for light in reference to faith or belief? Or are you looking for light to know? There's a difference between knowing and believing. And in this 3-dimensional world, there are 3 ways you can know a thing, but only one way you can know for sure, and that is by experience. The other is by hearsay, and the other is by seeing. And you must master the difference between looking and seeing, meaning you can see somebody touch an iron and they pull their hand back like, hot. Or you can embrace that experience by touching that hot iron yourself and burning yourself and the experience that is hot. Or you can hear through a fellow brother here in this school about how touching the iron burns. So you see, this is a 3-dimensional world here. Also, Boaz breaks down to providing resources for life, which the sun does. In ancient time, the obelisk, right, which is a clock, an ancient clock, right, which represents fertility, but is also an ancient clock used to tell time using the sun. And when this information is dumbed down to the 2nd grade, they give you Jesus. They give you the being a white Jesus with a sun disk behind his head, which we broke down for you on the Origin of the Bible, part 3, Bible study with the young elder. So go check that tape out. We'll get into that. If you got any questions about that, just leave comments below. Your sun has a cycle. of 25,920 years, which breaks down into 12 different cycles, which is 2,160 years apiece, right? Which the Greeks term Taurus, Gemini, Scorpio, right? Sagittarius, these different 12 star systems, which they took and dumbed down to the second grade, and it became known as the 12 disciples, or the 12 this and that, right? It's in reference to that. And like we said, they're headed east in search of light, in search of knowledge, in search of this information, so they'll be able to guide themselves with harmony and balance. So these people refer to light as knowledge, right? And they call themselves the enlightened one, the Illuminati, right? And we, who are the Moors, are the original Illuminati, right? Because the seal that they have on back of the dollar is our seal, the pyramid. And if you was to turn it upside down, and you would see the 7 hidden in the shadow, right? As in circle 7, right? And the number 7 is recorded 360 times exactly in the Bible. Now get that, right? And 360 degrees is square. And it is also circle, because even though they look different in shape, they both add up to the same degrees. Which takes me back to Atum Ray, the circle and the square, part 1. But now the Illuminati is being ran by the Luciferians from Lucifer, light bearer, right? But before he got that title, his name goes back farther than that, to an ancient culture, as a prefix. Lu means destroyer, and cipher means circle. So Lucifer means destroyer of the circle. What we're doing for you now is just trying to get it in your head. The science of mingling with the stars. The next thing we're gonna go over is Joshan, the second pillar, which represents the moon, which represents establishing a foundation. The moon controls emotion. The moon is also referred to as lunar, right? And understanding the moon might help you understand why some of the people here are crazy, right? Because the word lunatic rings a bell when you hear it in reference to the moon, because lunar is the moon and tick is that of a bloodsucker. So the etymology of lunatic is a being which draws energy from the moon, because the moon is based on feminine energy and the women's menstrual cycle. The moon also deals with the number 7. They go to number 7 again, because the moon has 4 phases which last 7 days each, giving you 28, giving you what you call a month, which is a derivative of the moon, as in Monday, Moon Day, which is virtually impossible. The moon cannot shine at the same time as the sun. Which brings me to another thing. The moon has no light of its own, which they give you a lesser light in masonry, which should be, it's the light of man, the light that's shining in the darkness, but the darkness comprehends it not. This is the second great light, the light of man. So in their teaching, the moon is in reference to light. The moon only reflects light due to an explosion that took place 66 billion years ago, where scientists drilled down deep in the ground and put a plutonium down in there and exploded and blew a piece of the old earth off, where we molded the moon from, the being Luna, who was a lunatic, right? And so if you understand about making glass and how glass is made by heating sand up to a certain degree, giving you glass. Thus, some of the sand, once it's heated up to a certain degrees, telling you that the explosion took place, causing some of this sand to turn into glass. When the sun hit the moon, it reflects sunlight, right? The science and why we need the moon, right? Dealing with Joshan and the science of why we need the moon, though, right? The moon controls the water, right? The moon creates 2 tides in 24 hours, which alludes and part of the penalty with the high tide and low tide, right? Being buried at low tide, a combination of the sun and the moon controls the tides, right? During a full moon, the tide is high. So if your body is made up 75% water, the tide is high in your body, right? The full moon is sucking energy. So when people go to work on a graveyard shift during a full moon, they're a lot tighter than they are on a half moon or quarter of a moon or a third of the moon. So understanding the 4 phases of the moon, which last 7 days each, giving you 28, right? Understanding how the moon works, you will understand how to move down here and understand how to deal with different things and when to go out and when not to go out. During a full moon, there's a lot of aggressiveness going around. There's a lot of energy being drained from people. Positive energy being turned into negative energy during a full moon. We, as the ancient ones, understood this science, which was third grade science that we taught the children, which is now being dumbed down to second grade information and given to you and got you going around beating people over the head with it. And it's really supposed to be 13 months of 28 days apiece, which is the different phases of the moon. So the Luciferians have made a concentrated effort to keep us off time and off beat with them because we can dance and they can't. They have added leap days. They spring forward the time and roll it back. And George W. Bush just signed a executive order before he got out of office to change the fallback time from September to November. So there's a big game and concentrated effort for us not to get back on track. The number 7, quite remarkable, representing the number of perfection, right? The 7 days of creation, the 7 candlesticks, the 7 stars, the 7 letters at the top of Jacob's winding staircase, which is in the Masonic order, which takes you to Job chapter 9, verse 9, where it states, "Where were you when I created Arcturus, Pleiades, Orion, star constellation?" Right? You should already know that by now. Pleiades has 7 main stars, and they are referred to as the 7 sisters. These 7 stairs on Jacob's staircase is representation of the Pleiades star system, right? So we told y'all this is a third grade science dealing around astronomy. There are also 7 days of the week, 7 cycles of 52, right? A year that has 7 cycles. And if you knew about these cycles, you will know when to do things, when to play the lottery, right? When to invest your money, when to save your money. If you knew these 7 different windows, which last 52 days each. These are the secrets and the information that they're keeping, that we as Moors gave to them and left them as custodians until we wake up. But now we're woke now and we want our stuff back. The moon is also called, in ancient Sumerian culture, Sin. Nana is also called Pan, who's a half man, half goat. So the moon being called Sin, dealing with the negative energy, dealing with the lunar energy. The moon is also like a brake pad to the earth, keeping the earth from spinning fast. The moon is holding the earth back from vibrating faster and spinning faster. So the moon is like a brake pad. So the mathematical sequence of this being put together is without question not done by accident. It was done by beings who had a high level of mathematical skills, because the moon breaks and lengthens your 24-hour day out. So if the moon go away, imagine your car with no brakes. So we just want to get these things over in your head so we can speed you up and get you ready for that which is to come. Understand that masonry is mathematics and astronomy running hand in hand, because mathematics is a universal language, right? And we who are use the stars to navigate, right? We Moors, right, use the stars to navigate this blue rock, right? And we as almond beings use the stars to log our locations and travel around the galaxy. You say, why do they deal with the number 33? And we who are know that the number 33 is not a number. It's a combination of 2 3s having been put together, which is 9, right? Or you can look at it as 3 on this side of the mirror and the 3 on that side of the mirror. And like Atum Ray say, there are 3 things on this side of the mirror. 2 you will see and the 1 you won't, meaning you'll see the solid, you'll see the liquid, but you won't see the gas, and they'll gas your ass all the way to full high octane, now won't they? And the human spinal column is made up of 33 bones, which is 9. And the number 33 represents 33 vertebrae down the human spine, right? Which is 9. Because the science behind the number 9 is 1 times 9 is 9. 2 times 9 is 18. 1 and 8 is 9. 3 times 9 is 27. 2 and 7 is 9. 5 times 9 is 45. 4 and 5 is 9. 6 times 9 is 54. And 5 and 4 is 9. 7 times 9 is 63. 6 and 3 is 9. 9 times 8 is 72. 7 and 2 is 9. And 9 times 9 is 81. And 8 and 1 is 9. So 9 is the highest number. In masonry, they talk about the honeybee and the bees and how they move. In ancient time, we made honey cakes from the honey from the bee, and we studied the bee. We studied all the insects. The honeybees, the beehive, maintain 33 degrees to produce their honey and their newborn properly. 3 and 3 is 9. So the bees, if this degrees changes, join together and flap their wings to lower the temperature back to the 33 degrees. Did you know that? Go check that out, right? And the bees are very social, right? And this is the socializing part, the socializing science behind the bees and how they work together as a unit for the greater good of the colony. The bees represent industrial, right? Industrial, creating a product, manufacturing a product that can be used and utilized for the greater good of the world. You see, this is a three-dimensional world, and everything here is governed by the number 3, right? Question, give me anything outside of a person, place, or thing. Remember, I told you this was a 3rd grade science, right? Well, they're taking that 3rd grade science and dumbed it down to a 2nd grade science, which is why they're giving you a duality, which is not reality. They told you about God and the devil, but didn't tell you what sits in between God and the devil, which is the confused. They told you about up and down, but didn't care to tell you about around. And they sent you out looking for God instead of going within, because their preference of direction is down and out, when our preference of direction is up and within. And the bees are very social. You know, as in social butterfly. And nobody ever took the time to ask why I call it a butterfly. Then you must understand the difference between guns and butter. Guns is the shit that gains value, while butter melts away. So the butterfly is nothing but another fly. A lot of this shit gonna go over y'all head as it starts its journey as the caterpillar metamorphosizing into what can be considered by some as beautiful, nothing but another fly, though. You know, all flies metamorphosize. The stinking flies, you know, that's always around some shit. Starts his journey off as a maggot, metamorphosizing into the germ-infested, buzzing irritation that they are. And everybody know that shit stinks. And if you think that yours don't, you're full of shit right now. So 30 degrees is walking around like a dog. Real man stand at 90 degrees, right? And he giving an erection at 90 degrees, which is why they're mad. Because they know when they seen the God men, they got offended. Because they know that we have bigger balls and a bigger cane. But we don't say two-ball cane. We say to be able. Because we're not descendants of Cain. I'm able, are you? And this is a representation of the light in man. The light that ejaculates through the obelisk. 777,777,777. Over 700 million of them. Particles of light racing to its destination. 33, like we say, it also can be represented as the number 3, because this is a 3-dimensional world, right? But they gave you duality, which is 2 things, and leave out the 3rd thing. And they have fed you illegitimate opposite, right? Because before you can truly know a thing, you must first know its true and exact opposite. And they have went on to tell you that the true and exact opposite of love is hate, which is an illegitimate opposite. If I was to ask any of you now, what is the true and exact opposite of love, most of you would say hate. And that's not okay, because this is the game that's been played on us, right? The true and exact opposite of love is fear, because true love stands there in the time of danger and risks its greatest gift, which is his very own life, to see that another loved one survive while fear runs and hides. True love gives you the shirt off its back, and never would it come at a later time to throw back in your face what it has done for you, while fear stands and opposed to divine love. Which takes me to the black and white floor in the Masonic Lodge, right? 54 squares, black and white, right? Good and evil, darkness and light. But understand that darkness is a lesser form of dark. Darkness is a shadow created by an object within inside of light. The object, light reflecting off an object, casting the shadow, right? So understanding the science of shadow, it's a lesser form of dark. In order to make a shadow, you need light. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, right? I shall fear no evil, for God is with me. So you cannot know what a thing is till you first know what a thing is not. The yin and yang principle, the balance, right? Never overstanding you about triple darkness, how light only makes up 1% of the universe, and that the intelligent is thought of in the dark and brought to the light. Remember, I told y'all this was a third grade science, right? And the number 3, right, is dealing around the 3 great lights of Egypt, Atum, and Amun, all being rays of the sun. Also, Osiris, Horus, the god child, or Haru, and Isis, or Set, the mother, the blessed mother. So, and also, the number 3 is dealing in the Bible too, right? So they want to trap you on 3, person, place, and thing. Also, if you set your telescope at 33 degrees to the east during the summer solstice, July 4th, you will see Sirius rise with the sun. Sirius, the dog star, which is called the blazing star of masonry, right? Our Moorish star, right? Star we know as the Moorish star, the North Star. The same star Harriet Tubman, who was an Eastern star, right, moved about and used to free the slaves. She used the stars to travel about, right? And they even made a movie about it called The North Star. So we navigated as Moors using the star. And we taught this science as a third grade science to the Europeans, who in turn enslaved, dumbed it down to the second grade and called it religion, that enslaved us with it. The number 33 is also dealing with sound. 33 is also dealing with sound and the chakras, right? Which they say is 7 chakras, but it's really 9, right? 33 hertz of sound, sound played at 33 hertz affects the lower chakra. In some cases, causing orgasm. Right? They know this information. They know what they know by our science, which they're calling the esoteric or the scientific side of masonry, plays a big part in the building, because if you observe our building, we lined them up with the stars using astronomy. Khufu's pyramid, right? Khafre, their pyramids, all these pyramids are lined up with star constellations, even Imhotep's pyramid. So all the pyramids are dealing around and lined around the stars. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Astronomy, which they told you was devil worship and told you to stay away from, because they didn't want you to figure out what they was doing. In masonry, another part of the light, it's a square in the compass, which has a G in the middle, which some say stands for the grand architect, some say God, and some say geometry, and some say it means all those things, okay? Geo, the etymology of geo breaks down. Geo means earth, metrics means a length of measurement, right? The esoteric definition of geometric is a higher dimensional analog, right? And an analog means that you have access, Amen, who is a news logbook, which is the Akashic records. So therefore, the geometric are being transferred by way of electricity into the mind to be manifest on the physical plane. Everything that's manifested on the physical plane is done by way of geometry. All of the shapes that you see, the lines, the angles, is geometrically, earthly. And geo is dealing around the earth and the earth sign. And By understanding this, you will understand the earth sign. Everything on this physical plane is being sent from the other side of the mirror by way of electricity and manifest on the physical plane by way of lines, slope, level, shape, graph, map. They got you walking around calling yourself square, right? And square is not a complete object, right? A square only has 360 degrees, which is the physical plane, and it hasn't become a complete object. It must become a cube, which has 8 90-degree angles, which makes up the 720 degrees, giving you another 360 degrees of the spiritual plane. This makes up the 720 degrees. A complete object, a cube. In Freemasonry, they have what they call an asher stone, an uncut stone. And this stone is worked on and worked on till it become a perfect cut stone. And this is a representation of the physical body and the spiritual body being worked on to make one perfect, to square yourself off, right? Square your deeds and your actions off. We use the stars to move about. We knew if we find Orion's belt, which has 3 stars, and draw diagonally down to the left, we will run into the North Star, the blazing star of Freemasonry, which the Dagons called Cyrus, or which the Dagons talked about called Cyrus. And we know that we call this star the North Star. So if you were to head towards this star, you will be heading north. If you was to go away from this star, you'll be headed south. If you go to the left of this star, you'll be headed west. And if you go to the right of this star, you'll be headed east, right? So we call Orion the hunter, right? And he has a bow and he's pointing, right? And Cyrus is at his foot, pointing from his feet, right? Well, the Greeks stole this concept and turned it into Cupid, right? Because they have what they call the Valentine star, Betelgeuse, which is a red star located in the Orion star system, which they call the Valentine star. And my students already know what Betelgeuse is all about, which is why they use red for Valentine's Day and use Cupid, right? Because they know that Betelgeuse is located in the Orion star system. Okay, somebody in the chat room got a question. It says, I heard you talk about the winding staircase, and there's 3 steps, then 5, then 7. You said the top 7 represents the platees, but then what does the other 3 and 5 represent? Well, the 3, 5, 7, if you was to ask a Mason how old are they will respond 3, 5, or 7, right? So it's dealing around different things. But the first 3 steps is dealing around the first 3 star system, the first 3 stars in Orion's belt. Right? It's dealing around the first 3 states of existence, right? Solid, liquid, gas, past, present, future, right? And the next 5 steps is dealing around the 5 stars in Arcturus, right? Because Arcturus has 5 stars, right? And these are dealing around the 5 senses, right? The 5 elements, right? You know, earth, wind, and fire, and love, and water, right? So it's dealing around the 5 elements. So it's also dealing around to Arcturus, right? Which has 5 stars, okay? So I hope that answers your question. And it's also, like we say, it's all dealing around Masonry. Astronomy is dealing around Masonry and mathematics, right? So I hope that answers your question. What was the original name of the shrine? The Hiwati Order, right? Who also was known as the Assyrian, who also was called by the Persians the Magi, which became known as magic, which became known as magicians, which became known as sorcerer, right? And like Baba Yanun say, it was magic for those who didn't believe and miracles for those who do. So I hope this answers your question. We got time for one more question out of the chat room. This question is from Strongman Ray. How many degrees are there in Mason? There are originally 9 degrees, but we only gave the European 3 degrees, which he turned into 33 degrees and called honorary studies. So there's only originally 9 degrees, right? Which makes up the 720 degrees, which comes back to 9 again. Because 7 and 2 is 9, and 0, which is not a number, but a cipher, right? It goes back to 9, okay? So I hope that answers the question. This is your young elder signing out. We love you all. And we're gonna win this war. Why? Because we can dance and they can't.